Hello and welcome to this episode. And it's been a while since I've recorded, and I've been aware of that as well. Recently I've been in the process of trying to upgrade my recording equipment that I use. So I've recently purchased a new microphone, but I haven't been able to use it as of yet. Simply because the setup will only work at home, and with me living with family, there's often a lot of disturbances or noises, so I'm back in my car with my small lapel mic that connects to my phone. And I first want to mention that Mooji is currently in Rishikesh in India, and all of his satsangs, which are, I guess, pointings, all of his talks are streamed live on YouTube, and you can also watch it after it's been streamed as well. And it's all on his page. If you just type in Mooji on YouTube, and you should come across his page. And there are many hours there of satsangs, and I've been doing my best to watch when I can as well. And he's in India until, I think, roughly the middle of March, so there's plenty of satsangs to go and to experience. And while watching one of the Mooji satsangs recently, usually they're about a couple of hours or more long, so I found my mind very bored of the pointings being heard. And it was a reminder that the mind can only perceive things on the surface. If you imagine an ocean, the mind is just the ripples on the ocean. The mind doesn't have any awareness of the depth beneath it, the depth that's behind the mind. So it sees the repeated pointings, and naturally it's going to get bored of them or complain about them. I've heard this before, I want to hear something new. And I was noticing that in myself as I was watching. And I feel there needs to be a balance when you're watching anything in regards to spirituality or listening, or there's the balance of needing to watch it to follow the pointings, and then there perhaps is the balance where you may be watching too much of something, that you may find yourself watching it but not really following the pointings. You may just be watching out of habit, or watching because you think you have to watch. But I turned on one of the satsangs recently, and I realized I was doing exactly that. I was just simply watching just to watch. I wasn't actually following the pointings. And I realized that perhaps I need a break from watching the satsangs. That I've perhaps watched quite a few, and that's enough for the moment. And just an update on my own life situation. I've mentioned before about trying to get my own place and my own space, and hopefully that may actually happen in the next month or so. And have shared the difficulties and challenges of my, I guess you can call it my current life situation of where I'm living, and so that's been part of why I haven't recorded as much in the last few weeks or so. And I find myself either being in a space of presence or being in complete disarray, where there's lots of mental noise and lots of dysfunction with my thoughts, and that could be my depression, or it could be anxiety. So I find it recently it's been one energy or the other. I've been identifying with the mind quite closely, and that's caused a lot of distress and pain, or I'm in complete presence. So you may find yourself the same way, where if you were to look at your own path in the last few weeks, and there may be a pattern emerging of certain things happening, and that's part of our individual process. We will have our own individual mental makeup and what we've been through in our lives, and so naturally our paths are going to differ slightly. We're all perhaps heading in the same direction, but we've all got our own individual path to take. There may be some common challenges, common things we can talk about, but often the details may be quite unique just to you. And I'm back in my car at the moment. I'm just outside a coffee shop, and I found my mental mood very heavy this morning, and there was perhaps some sadness there as well, and also exhaustion. I was just exhausted, and that could be related to sleep, because I haven't been sleeping as well as I would have liked to sleep. But I found the exhaustion was also in the being around other people. I think I've used the example before where if you're visiting some friends or family, for a few hours it's fine, or for a weekend if you're staying over, but after a while it becomes a bit uncomfortable or a bit foreign because you're not in your own space. You may feel the sensations of wanting to go home, and so you can fully relax, and I felt the effect of that. I'm not having my own space over this past year and a half, and I felt that especially today. I just, if there was a home I could go back to, a safe space, then that's what I would like to do today. But I'm doing the next best thing. So I've managed to leave my current environment to get a break, and there's obviously, for me, there's a bit of a different stress when I'm outside, when you're in a coffee shop, because of course there's people there, and naturally you can't fully relax as you would in your own home, in your own space. So, but I'm sure it will help a little just to get out and change my environment, and I managed to go for a walk, and I was aware of my mind continuously going round and round. I find my mind seems to absorb things and keep hold of them, whether it's somebody's voice, or if you've heard a song in your head. I find naturally, if you hear a song a lot, it will go around your head for a little while. But for me personally, it stays with me for quite a few days. I recently heard a song by Billie Eilish. I'm not really up to date with current music, so I wasn't really familiar with her, but I learned that she's quite a popular musician, and I came across, she released a song for the James Bond theme, and something about it I really resonated with, the darkness, the depth of the melody. Perhaps there's a sad undertone to it as well, and I found myself listening to that quite a few times, and it seems it's still with me, and yeah, there's no pause button, unfortunately, so it seems to be going around in my head. And maybe this is to do with my state of my mental health, where things are absorbed a bit more deeply and it's harder to let go of things, and perhaps that's something for me to be aware of, because it does feel like it's driving me a bit crazy to continuously hear the chorus going around and some of the verses, and I'm sure that's wearing me out as well mentally. But yeah, so I just wanted to record mainly to check in, just to let you guys know I'm still here. I haven't forgotten about this podcast. And I did have an idea about recording an episode about lust. It's something in this day and age, perhaps it's not talked about on a deep level. We are surrounded by images or videos or conversations, any sort of thing we can consume. There's a lot of lust out there, a lot of, I guess you can say, sexual expression as well, in music and TV shows. And if you were to walk into a city centre on a Saturday night, you may see it in person, perhaps the way people are dressed, and there's no judgment in that. It's just simply an observation of what's happening in the society we are in at the moment, and what we can be influenced by as well. If you go on social media, you may see people there dressed in a certain way. They've got their reasons for doing so, but I find perhaps it's worth delving into that a little bit deeper, of why there is so much of this out there. And you can go into, obviously, the internet of pornography and things related to that. There's lots of content, and there's more and more growing. It's growing exponentially, and which tells you there's a demand for it. There's people out there that are in that energy of lust, and on the other side of that, there's addiction as well too. We're aware of alcohol addiction and can't think of the word, so I'll just use drug addiction, but substance, that's what I was looking for, substance addiction. And now there's sex addiction as well, which is it seems to be becoming more of a problem. So perhaps I would like to have an in-depth episode about that, because I struggle with that too. We all have that energy in us, and just like we have thoughts in our mind, perhaps something is being overused or overstimulated, and perhaps that can be addressed at the root as well, instead of addressing we shouldn't watch this or that. It's just addressing the root of it, so we understand where this energy is coming from, and I believe it would be more of a permanent solution to that, so it won't even get out of control, and things will be manifested in you where habits are formed, and perhaps there could be a conversation about that, of just of just sharing my experience of that and how I try and cope with it as well. But so my main purpose was just to let you guys know about the satsangs in Rishikesh. I find there's there'll be a great benefit perhaps of, if you're able to tune into one of them. And I find also they are long to watch, but sometimes if you kind of almost hang in there, or you just accept that, okay, let's just watch this all. And I find even after it's finished, that those pointings, you feel the fruit of those pointings, something's been absorbed. Sometimes on the surface you may think to yourself, I'm watching this, I'm hearing the pointings of what the spiritual teacher is saying, but I don't feel like it's going that far deep. And sometimes, quite often, after you've watched something, the time that's passed afterwards, those pointings bear fruit. I find myself watching the satsang with that. I was in that place where I wasn't really absorbing, but after it finished, there was a profound peace that came, and it was almost like I've put in the work. I've just sometimes when you exercise, you may not feel great doing it, but afterwards you suddenly feel a burst of energy or some strength coming through, and I can maybe almost relate it to that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and end the episode here and do some writing, but I'd like to quickly check in and let you know what I'm up to at the moment as well. So of course, I'll keep you updated about the moving process and how that perhaps affects me in my spirituality also, and my mental health. Okay, well, thank you for joining me for today's episode. As always, I wish you well in this moment, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Take care. If you have an urge to support this podcast, you're more than welcome to visit my Patreon page, and you can find the link in the description of the episode. There you will find a little bit more information about myself and my journey and my purpose with helping others. You can also share and review this podcast. These are 2 simple ways to create awareness and spread these teachings, and it will also help future listeners to discover this content as well. Thank you.